Captain Day Kang stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, watching the stars through the main window. His ship was small compared to the military vessels back home, but it was perfect for their mission. They were explorers, not warriors. Their job was to find new worlds and learn about the galaxy. "Captain," called Nayal from her station. The young woman's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." Day walked over to her workstation. The blue glow from the screens lit up his face. "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings unlike anything in our database. The pattern is ... organized, artificial." Nayal looked up at him with worried eyes. "Sir, I think it's a ship." "A big one." The bridge went quiet. For 3 months, they had been alone in the Kepler 442 system. They had found 2 dead planets and 1 with simple plant life. No signs of intelligent life anywhere. Until now. "How big?" They asked. Nayal checked her readings again. "At least 5 times our size, maybe more." Dr. So-Min looked up from her research station. The scientist had been studying rock samples from the second planet. Her dark hair was tied back, and she wore the simple blue uniform of the research division. "Captain, if there's another species out here, this could be the discovery of a lifetime." Wu Tae, the ship's engineer, was less excited. "Or it could be the end of our lifetime," he said from his position near the engine controls. "We don't know if they're friendly," Day nodded. Wu Tae was right to be careful. Earth had only made contact with 3 other alien species, and those meetings had not always gone well. Humans were still new to the galaxy, still learning the rules. Nayal tried to establish communication. "Use the standard first contact protocols." Day sat down in his captain's chair. "So-Min, I want you recording everything. Wu Tae, keep the engines ready, just in case." The next few minutes felt like hours. Nayal sent out the basic friendship messages that Earth's diplomats had created, mathematical sequences to show intelligence, pictures to show peaceful intent, simple patterns that any advanced species should understand. Then the alien ship answered. The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of stars, they now saw the inside of another ship's bridge. And standing in the center was something that made Day's blood run cold. The alien was tall, nearly 8 feet, with dark green scales covering its body. Its head was long and narrow, like a crocodile's, but it stood upright like a human. Yellow eyes stared at them with obvious contempt. Sharp teeth showed when it spoke. "Weak flesh creatures," the alien said in perfect English. Its voice was deep and rough. "I am Commander Zethra of the Veltar ship Bloodclaw Dominion. You are in hunting grounds claimed by the Veltar Empire. Explain why you dare to enter our space before I decide to destroy you." Day stood up slowly. He kept his hands visible and his voice calm. "I am Captain Day Kang of the human vessel Harmony's Edge. We come in peace. We are explorers seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." Commander Zethra made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not a pleasant sound. "Humans, yes, we have heard of your kind. Soft and weak, no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. You breed slowly and waste resources caring for your damaged young." The alien's yellow eyes looked at each human on the bridge. "You are curiosities, nothing more." Dr. So-Min stepped forward. "Commander Zethra, we would be honored to learn about your people and your culture. Perhaps we could exchange knowledge that would benefit both our species." The Veltar commander tilted its massive head. "Exchange? What could weak creatures like you possibly offer the Veltar? We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have conquered 100 worlds through strength and skill. Our warriors are unmatched. Our technology is superior to yours in every way." Wu Tae whispered to Day. "Captain, their weapons are charging. I'm reading massive energy buildup." Day raised his hand slightly, telling Wu Tae to wait. He looked back at the screen. "Commander, we don't seek to challenge your strength. We simply wish to understand the galaxy we now share. Surely knowledge has value to a civilization as advanced as yours." Commander Zethra's laugh was louder this time. "Share? The galaxy belongs to the strong human. The weak exist only as long as the strong allow it. The alien leaned closer to its screen. But you amuse me with your pathetic attempts at diplomacy. Very well, you may approach our ship. My scientists are curious about your primitive biology. The connection ended. The main screen showed stars again. Nayo looked at her captain. Sir, what do we do? Day thought for a moment. Every instinct told him to run. The Veltar ship was powerful enough to destroy them easily, but this was first contact with a new species. The information they could gather might be vital for humanity's future. We go, he said finally, but stay alert. So Min, prepare a cultural exchange team. Wu-Tae, I want our engines ready for emergency departure at any moment. Nayal, keep all communication channels open. As the Harmony's Edge moved toward the massive Veltar ship, they wondered what they were getting into. The Veltar seemed to view humans as inferior creatures barely worth their attention. But something in Commander Zethra's voice suggested there was more to this meeting than simple curiosity. The alien ship grew larger on their screens. It was built like a weapon, all sharp angles and dark metal. Gun ports lined its sides like teeth in a massive jaw. It was beautiful in a terrible way, the creation of a species that valued strength above all else. Captain, So Min said quietly, I have a feeling we're about to learn that the galaxy is a much more dangerous place than we thought. Day nodded. Maybe, but we're also about to learn something about ourselves. How we handle this meeting might determine how the rest of the galaxy sees humanity for generations to come. The Harmony's Edge moved through space toward its destiny, carrying with it the hopes and fears of an entire species that was still finding its place among the stars. Dr. So Min adjusted her translator device as she stepped into the airlock. Behind her, linguist Jinho carried recording equipment while Dr. Mi-Yun held her medical scanner. The three humans were about to enter the Veltar ship for the first cultural exchange in history. Remember, So Min said quietly, we're here to learn, not to judge. No matter what we see or hear, we stay calm and respectful. Jinho nodded nervously. The language patterns are fascinating. Their words for weak and dead are almost identical. Dr. Mi-Yun checked her scanner one more time. I'm reading elevated. Stress hormones in all of us. Perfectly normal for this situation. The airlock opened, and they stepped into a world of dark metal and sharp edges. Everything on the Veltar ship seemed designed to cut or pierce. Even the walls had blade-like decorations. The air was warm and humid, with a smell like burning metal. Commander Zethra waited for them, flanked by two other Veltar warriors. The aliens were even more intimidating up close. Their scales looked like natural armor, and their claws could easily tear through human flesh. Welcome to the Bloodclaw Dominion, Commander Zethra said. Try not to touch anything. You're soft. Skin might get damaged. She led them through corridors filled with weapons and trophies from conquered worlds. So Min saw bones and skulls from dozens of different species mounted on the walls like decorations. Your ship is impressive, So Min said, trying to start a friendly conversation. It is a tool of war, nothing more, Zethra replied. Beauty comes from function. A weapon that kills efficiently is more beautiful than any art your kind might create. They entered a large room that seemed to be a meeting hall. The walls were covered with symbols and writing in the Veltar language. Jinho immediately began recording, his eyes wide with excitement. This is our Hall of the Krethval, Commander Zethra explained. The law of the strong. It is the foundation of all Veltar civilization. Dr. Mi-Yun looked at the symbols. What does the law say? Commander. Zethra's yellow eyes gleamed with pride. Only the strong deserve to live. Only the strong deserve to breed. Only the strong deserve to lead. Everything else is waste. So Min felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. How do you determine who is strong? Through trials, another Veltar warrior said. This one was smaller than Zethra, with lighter green scales. I am Sub-Commander Kethval. From the moment we are born, we face tests. Combat, hunting, survival challenges. Those who pass become warriors. Those who fail. He made a gesture that looked like throwing something away. Jin Ho leaned forward. What happens to those who fail? Commander Zethra and Sub-Commander Kethvil exchanged a look. Then Zethra spoke with obvious pride. They become Silthara, the cast-off ones. We abandon them on dead worlds to face their fate alone. So Min felt sick to her stomach. You abandon your own children? We abandon the weak, Zethra corrected. A Veltar who cannot survive the trials would only weaken our bloodline. This is natural selection perfected. This is why we rule the stars while other species struggle in the darkness. Dr. Miyun could not hide her shock. But they're just children. How old are they when you abandon them? Sub-Commander Kethvil answered. Age does not matter. Strength matters. I have seen warriors as young as 6 seasons prove their worth. I have seen adults fail their first trial and be cast out the same day. What kind of trials? Jin Ho asked, though So Min wished he hadn't. Combat. Trials where the young must fight each other until only the strongest remain, Zethra explained casually. Hunting trials where they must kill dangerous prey with their bear claws. Survival trials where they are left alone on hostile worlds for months. Commander Zethra led them to another wall covered with more symbols. These are the names of great warriors. Each one earned their place through strength. Each one proved. They deserve to carry Veltar blood to the next generation. So Min looked at the endless rows of names. How many children fail these trials? Perhaps half, Kethvil said with a shrug. Sometimes more. A particularly difficult trial might eliminate 70% of the candidates. And you just leave? Them to die? Dr. Miyun's voice was barely controlled. We leave them to prove themselves, Zethra said firmly. If they are truly strong, they will survive and find their way back to us. If not, then they were never worthy of the Veltar name. Jinho was recording everything, but his hands were shaking. Has anyone ever returned from abandonment? The 2 Veltar warriors looked at each other again. Finally, Kethvil spoke. None. In living memory, but the possibility exists. That is what separates abandonment from execution. So Min realized she was looking at a civilization that had turned child murder into a philosophy. Commander Zethra, surely some of these abandoned? Children have potential that just needs time to develop? Potential without immediate strength is worthless, Zethra replied coldly. Your human sentiment would doom our species to weakness. You keep your damaged young alive, wasting resources that could strengthen the worthy. This is why humans will never be more than curiosities in this galaxy. The Veltar commander moved to a large window that looked out into space. There are hundreds of worlds where the Silthar have been left. Dead planets, poisoned moons, asteroid fields with barely breathable atmospheres. They serve as reminders of what happens to weakness. Dr. Mi Yoon stepped closer to So Min and whispered, "We have to do something." So Min shook her head slightly. They were guests here, surrounded by warriors who could kill them without effort. But inside she felt a burning anger at this waste of life. Commander Zethra turned back to them. You find our ways harsh. This is because you are soft. Your species clings to failed offspring out of misplaced emotion. We perfect ourselves through constant selection. But innovation often comes from different thinking, Jinho said carefully. Some of your abandoned young might have valuable perspectives. Sub-Commander Kethvil made that harsh laughing sound again. Valuable perspectives from failures? You humans are even more foolish than reported. The tour continued for another hour. The humans saw training rooms where young Veltar fought with real weapons, medical bays designed only for treating warriors, and libraries filled with records of conquest and domination. By the time they returned to their ship, all 3 humans were deeply shaken. They sat in the briefing room, unable to speak for several minutes. Finally, So Min broke the silence. We just witnessed systematic child abandonment raised to the level of religious law. Dr. Mi Yoon was checking her medical notes. The psychological trauma alone must be incredible. To grow up knowing that any sign of weakness means death. Jin Ho played back some of his recordings. They're proud of it. They see it as their greatest achievement. So Min stared out the window at the Veltar ship. Somewhere in the galaxy on dead worlds scattered across space, abandoned children were dying alone because they had failed to meet impossible standards. "Captain," she said into her communicator, "we need to talk, all of us, right now." As the three humans headed to the bridge, none of them noticed the small signal on Nayol's communication board. A weak distress beacon, broadcasting from a planet called Kethmer in nearby Veltar space. The signal had been running for months, but it was so faint that only the most sensitive equipment could detect it. And it was calling for help in the voices of children. Captain Day Kang sat in his ready room, reading Dr. So Min's report for the third time. The details about Veltar child abandonment made his stomach turn. He had 2 children back on Earth, and the thought of any civilization throwing away young lives made him angry. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Captain," came Nayol's voice over the intercom, "I'm picking up something strange, a very weak signal from the planet Kethmer." Day walked onto the bridge. "What kind of signal?" Nayol looked confused as she worked at her station. "It's definitely artificial, but it's so faint I almost missed it. The pattern suggests a distress beacon, but—" She paused, checking her readings again. "Sir, it's been broadcasting for months, maybe longer." Dr. So Min arrived on the bridge, still wearing her research uniform. "Captain, after what we learned about the Veltar, I think we should investigate any distress signal in their space." Wu Te looked up from his engineering station. "Kethmar is listed in the Veltar database as a dead world. No atmosphere, no life, extreme temperature variations. Perfect place to abandon unwanted children," So Min said quietly. Captain Day made his decision quickly. "Nayol, set course for Kethmar. Wu Te, prepare an away team with full environmental suits. So Min, I want you to lead the mission." An hour later, Commander Zethra's face appeared on the main screen. She looked angry. "Human captain, you are approaching forbidden space. Kethmar is cursed ground where the Silthara are left to face their fate. No honorable being sets foot there." "We detected a distress signal," Captain Day replied calmly. "We're going to investigate." Zethra's yellow eyes narrowed. "You would contaminate yourselves by contact with the cast-off ones? This proves your species lacks all wisdom." "It proves we care about children in danger," Day said firmly. The Veltar commander made her harsh laughing sound. "Then you will. Learn why sentiment is weakness. Do not call for our aid when your foolishness brings consequences." The connection ended. The away team consisted of Dr. So Min, Security Chief Rebin, and Engineer Kai Sun. They took the shuttle down to Kethmer's surface. Following the distress signal to its source, the planet was exactly as terrible as described. The sky was orange with poisonous gases. Jagged rocks covered the landscape like broken teeth. The temperature was barely survivable, even with their environmental suits. "Signals getting stronger," Kai Sun reported as they walked across the wasteland. "Just over that ridge." What they found on the other side made So Min gasp in horror. Hundreds of makeshift shelters dotted a small valley. They were built from scrap metal, broken rocks, and salvaged debris. Smoke rose from small fires where figures huddled for warmth. Even through her suit's filters, So Min could smell desperation and fear. "My God," Rebin whispered. "There are so many of them." Young Veltar emerged from the shelters as the humans approached. They were thin and scared, with scales dulled by malnutrition. Some were barely more than babies. Others looked like teenagers. All of them watched the strangers with a mixture of hope and terror. The oldest among them stepped forward. She was young for a Veltar, maybe 16 human years. Her green scales were scarred, and one of her arms hung strangely, as if it had been broken and healed wrong. "I am Kethanara," she said in accented English. "You are the humans we heard about on the communication frequencies. Why have you come to this place of the abandoned?" So Min removed her helmet, ignoring the toxic air warnings from her suit. "We heard your distress signal. We came to help." Kethanara's eyes widened in shock. "Help? No one helps the Silthara. We are the failures, the weak ones cast out by our people." "Why were you cast out?" Kai Sun asked gently. I refused to kill my younger brother during trial combat, Kethanara said with quiet pride. The judges said I was contaminated by weakness. They brought us both here and left us to die. So Min looked around at the desperate camp. How many of you are there? Nearly 300, Kethanara replied. We lose some every month to the cold, the hunger, the poisoned air. But I try to keep the little ones alive as long as possible. Rebin was scanning the area with his equipment. Dr. So Min, these children won't survive another week without proper food and medical care. So Min made a decision that would change everything. Kethanara, would you and the others like to come with us? To our ship, where you'll be safe and fed? The young Veltar stared at her in disbelief. You would take us? All of us, even the smallest. Ones who can barely walk? Especially the smallest ones. So Min said firmly. Kethanara's scarred face showed an expression the humans had never seen on a Veltar before. It took a moment for So Min to recognize it as hope. But your ship commander will forbid this, Kethanara warned. To help the Silthara is to declare war on everything our people believe. You would make enemies of the greatest predators in the galaxy. So Min looked at the dying children around her, then back at Kethanara. Then let us be enemies of that belief. We're taking you all aboard. The next few hours were chaos. The humans worked frantically to evacuate every abandoned child from the planet. Some were too weak to walk and had to be carried. Others were sick with diseases caused by malnutrition and toxic exposure. Kai-sun rigged emergency life support in the shuttle for the first group. Rebin organized the evacuation while So Min treated the most critical cases with her basic medical supplies. Dakan. Day's voice crackled over the radio. So Min, Commander Zethra is demanding to speak with me. She knows what you're doing. Tell her we're saving lives, So Min replied as she helped a tiny Veltar child into the shuttle. Tell her humans don't abandon children. When they finally returned to the Harmony's edge, the ship was filled with nearly 300 young Veltar. They huddled together in groups, still afraid but no longer dying alone. Commander Zethra's image appeared on every screen in the ship. Her rage was terrifying to see. Humans, you have violated the most sacred law of the Veltar people. You have contaminated yourselves with the touch of failure. Captain Day stood on his bridge, surrounded by young Veltar who clung to his crew for protection. Commander, we have saved children who were left to die. If that violates your laws, then your laws are wrong. You have declared war on the natural order, Zethra snarled. The Veltar Dominion will see this as an act of aggression against our very nature. You cannot comprehend the forces you have awakened. Then we'll face those forces, Captain Day said calmly. But no child gets left behind, not on our watch. Zethra's yellow eyes burned with fury. You will regret this madness, humans. The war fleet will come for you. They will take back what belongs to the Veltar, and they will punish you for your contamination of pure bloodlines. The connection ended. Leaving the bridge in silence. Dr. So Min held a tiny Veltar child who had fallen asleep in her arms. Around them, young aliens experienced kindness for the first time in their lives. They saw adults who protected instead of tested them. They witnessed cooperation instead of competition. Captain, So Min said quietly, I think we just started something that will change both our species forever. Day nodded, watching as his crew shared their food with hungry children and his medical staff treated wounds that should never have existed. Then let it change us, he said. Some things are worth fighting for. In the depths of space, the Veltar war fleet was already mobilizing. But aboard the Harmony's edge, something impossible was happening. Abandoned children were learning that they had value, and humans were discovering what they were truly capable of when protecting the innocent. Dr. Mi-Yoon had not slept in 36 hours. The medical bay of the Harmony's edge was filled with young Veltar who needed immediate care. Some suffered from severe malnutrition. Others had broken bones that had healed wrong. Many showed signs of poisoning from breathing toxic air for months. Doctor, called her assistant Jin-Soo, the little one in bed 3 is running a fever again. Mi-yoon hurried over to check on a Veltar child who looked barely 5 years old. The child's scales were pale gray instead of healthy green. When Mi-yoon touched the small forehead with her scanner, the child flinched away in fear. "It's okay," Mi-yoon said softly. "I'm here to help you feel better." The child stared at her with huge yellow eyes. In the corner of the medical bay, Keithanara was helping translate for the younger children who didn't speak English yet. "She says her name is Silka," Keithanara explained. "She was abandoned when she was 3 because she cried during a pain tolerance test." Mi-yoon felt anger rise in her chest. A 3-year-old child, abandoned for acting like a normal 3-year-old. She gently gave Silka medicine and watched the fever begin to break. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out in every room. The Harmony's Edge had been designed for a crew of 50 humans. Now it carried 350 beings, and the strain was enormous. In the engine room, Wu-tae worked frantically to modify the ship's systems. The Veltar children needed different gravity settings than humans. Their body temperature ran higher, so the heating system was overloaded. They ate different food, and the food recyclers were running constantly. "Captain," Wu-tae called over the intercom, "I've got the gravity generators adjusted for sections 7 through 12. But we're running at 110% power. We can't keep this up forever." Captain Day's voice came back tired but determined. "Do whatever you have to do, Wu-tae. We make it work." In the dining hall, crew members shared their meals with hungry children. So Min watched as communications officer Nayol cut her dinner in half to feed 2 young Veltar who had been eating scraps for months. "The little ones learn so fast," Nayol said as she helped them use human eating utensils. "They've never seen adults give up food for children before." Keithanara sat nearby, translating and helping the children adjust to their new situation. "In Veltar society, adults eat first," she explained to So Min. "The strong take what they need. The weak get what remains." So Min shook her head. "On human ships, children eat first, always." As the days passed, Keithanara became a bridge between the two species. She helped the humans understand Veltar needs while teaching the abandoned children that kindness was not weakness. "Your people confuse me," she told Captain Day during one of their daily meetings. "Your warriors tend to the smallest young before feeding themselves. Your leaders work hardest for those who cannot fight beside them. This makes no sense by Veltar." "Law, maybe that's why our law is different," Day replied. "Strength isn't just about fighting. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is take care of someone weaker than yourself." Keithanara's scarred face showed thoughtful confusion. "But how does this make you stronger as a species?" Before Day could answer, Nayol's urgent voice came over the intercom. "Captain, to the bridge immediately. We have a problem." On the bridge, Nayol was monitoring Veltar military communications. Her face was pale as she looked up at Captain Day. "Sir, I've been intercepting transmissions from Veltar High Command. Warfleet Zethka is mobilizing. 67 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts." So Min felt her blood run cold. "How many is that compared to our fleet in this sector?" "We have 5 ships within 3 days' travel," Nayol replied. "They have enough firepower to destroy a small planet." The bridge crew looked at each other with worry. Then Nayol continued with worse news. "Captain, the fleet is commanded by High Commander Vextara. According to these transmissions, she's Commander Zethra's superior, and she's extremely angry." Nayol played a recorded message. The voice that came through the speakers was deeper and more frightening than Zethra's. "All Veltar forces, this is High Commander Vextara. The humans have committed an act of war against our people by contaminating themselves with the Silthara. They have violated the sacred Krethval and insulted the honor of our ancestors. We will reclaim our cast-off property and punish the humans for their contamination of pure bloodlines." The message continued with technical details about fleet movements and battle plans. When it ended, the bridge was silent. "How long until they reach us?" Captain Day asked. 6 days at maximum speed," Nayol replied. Wu-tae spoke from his engineering station. "Captain, we could try to run." The modifications I've made to the engines might give us enough speed to reach human space. With 300 children aboard, Dr. Mi-yoon had arrived on the bridge during the transmission. Half of them are still too sick to survive high speed maneuvers. The stress could kill them. Captain Day looked around his bridge. Through the windows, he could see young Veltar playing in the corridors. For the first time in their lives, they were laughing. They were learning games instead of fighting techniques. They were experiencing childhood. "We don't run," Day said finally. "We find another way." In the weeks that followed, something remarkable happened aboard the Harmony's Edge. The young Veltar began to thrive under human care. They gained weight and their scales brightened to healthy colors. More importantly, they began to question everything they had been taught about strength and survival. So Min watched as a group of children worked together to fix a broken toy, instead of fighting over it. She saw older ones teaching younger ones to read human books. She witnessed acts of kindness and cooperation that would have been impossible under Veltar law. "They're becoming something new," she told Captain Day. "Not quite Veltar as their people define it, but not human either. Something better than both." Kefanara had changed too. The scared, scarred teenager was becoming a leader among her people. She organized the children, helped them learn, and protected the smallest ones with fierce determination. "I understand now," she told So-min one evening as they watched the children sleep peacefully in their makeshift dormitories. "Strength isn't about survival alone. It's about making sure others can survive too." But outside the ship, space scanners showed energy, signatures growing stronger each day. The Veltar war fleet was coming, and they wanted their abandoned children back. Captain Day stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars. In 6 days, they would face the most powerful military force in the galaxy. His small research ship had no chance in a direct fight, but as he watched the children playing in the corridors below, he realized something important. The humans had already won the most important battle. They had proven that abandoned children could become something wonderful when given love and care. Now they just had to survive long enough to show the galaxy what they had accomplished. The Harmony's Edge continued through space toward an uncertain future, carrying with it 300 young lives that had been written off as worthless. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humans had a very different definition of value. The Veltar war fleet appeared on the edge of human space like a storm of metal and death. High Commander Vextara's flagship, the Blood Sovereign, was twice the size of the entire human research vessel. Behind it, 66 other warships formed a wall of weapons that could destroy planets. Captain Day stood on his bridge, watching the massive fleet approach. Around him, his crew worked frantically at their stations. In the corridors below, 300 young Veltar waited to learn if they would live or die. "Incoming transmission," Nayel announced, her voice tight with fear, the main screen filled with the image of High Commander Vextara. She was even more terrifying than Commander Zethra, with darker scales and scars that told of countless battles. Her yellow eyes burned with cold rage. "Human vessel," Vextara's voice was like grinding stone. "You have stolen property of the Veltar Empire. You will immediately return all Sothara to our custody and submit to punishment for your contamination of pure bloodlines." Captain Day stepped forward. "High Commander, these children are under our protection. We will not return them to be executed." Vextara's laugh was worse than Zethra's. "Protection? You are one small ship against the might of the Veltar fleet. Your weapons are toys, your armor is paper. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." "We won't surrender," Day said calmly. "These children deserve to live. Then you will die." "For nothing," Vextara snarled. "All ships, prepare to fire." What happened next shocked the Veltar fleet beyond belief. The humans fought. They fought with a desperation and fury that the warrior species had never seen before. Wu-Tay pushed the engines beyond their limits, making the Harmony's Edge dance. Between enemy fire like a ship half its size, Nayel jammed Veltar communications and confused their targeting systems. Security Chief Rebin led teams that prepared for boarding actions with weapons and tactics the Veltar had never encountered, but it was Dr. So Min, who delivered the greatest shock. As Veltar ships closed in for the kill, she activated the ship's communication array and broadcast a message across all Veltar frequencies. Her image appeared on every screen in the enemy fleet. "Warriors of the Veltar Empire," she began, standing in the ship's medical bay surrounded by healthy, happy children, "look at what your abandoned young have become." The camera showed young Veltar working together to solve problems. It showed them helping each other, teaching each other, protecting the smallest among them. It showed children who had been written off as failures now thriving under care and love. "You call these children weak," So Min continued, "but I have seen them show more courage and kindness than most warriors show in battle. You abandoned them because they failed your tests. But your tests were testing the wrong things." On the Veltar flagship, High Commander Vextara watched in growing anger. "Cut that transmission." "We cannot, High Commander," her communications officer replied. "They are broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously with more power than our ship possesses." So Min's voice continued across the fleet. "You have built a civilization on throwing away anyone who shows mercy, who thinks differently, who dares to care for others. But we have seen what these children can become when given a chance." The camera focused on Kathanara, who was helping younger children build something with blocks and spare parts. Her scarred face was gentle as she taught them cooperation instead of competition. "Perhaps true strength," So Min said, "isn't about who survives the fall. Perhaps it's about who reaches down to help others climb." The transmission had an unexpected effect. On some Veltar ships, warriors stopped what they were doing to watch. They saw their own abandoned young laughing, learning, growing. They saw children they had been taught to forget showing intelligence and creativity that had been ignored. On the Blood Sovereign, Sub-Commander Kethval approached High Commander Vextara. "Commander, some of the fleet captains are requesting clarification of orders." "What clarification?" Vextara demanded. They want to know if we are truly going to kill children who appear healthy and strong." Vextara's rage exploded. "They are contaminated. They have been touched by human weakness." But even as she spoke, something unexpected happened. A boarding pod from a Veltar assault ship broke through the Harmony's Edge's defenses. Veltar warriors stormed aboard, expecting to find cowering humans and grateful abandoned children. Instead, they found young Veltar standing in front of the humans. Protecting their protectors, Kathanara stepped forward to face the warriors. Behind her, nearly 300 children stood together. "I am Kathanara, daughter of the Silthara. These humans have shown us what strength really means." The lead warrior raised his weapon. "Stand aside, failure. You will return to face proper judgment." "No," Kathanara said simply. "We choose to stay with those who showed us that caring for others is not weakness." A tiny voice spoke up from behind her. Little Silka, the child who had been abandoned for crying, stepped forward. "The humans make the hurt go away. They give food to hungry ones. They protect the small ones." More children spoke up, their voices growing stronger together. "They teach us to help each other. They never hit us for asking questions. They cry when we are sad. They smile when we learn new things." The Veltar warriors looked at each other in confusion. These children were supposed to be failures, yet they spoke with courage. They were supposed to be weak, yet they stood firm against trained killers. The lead warrior contacted his ship. "Command, the Silthara refuse to return. They are defending the humans." On the bridge of the Harmony's Edge, Captain Day heard explosions from the lower decks. Engineer Kai-sun's voice came over the intercom, tight with pain. "Captain, they've breached the engine room. I'm sealing the core, but the containment field is failing. I can keep it stable, but I have to stay here." Day understood immediately. Kai-sun was sacrificing his life to keep the ship running and protect the children. Kai-sun ... Day began. "Tell my family I died protecting kids," Kai-sun interrupted. "That's a good way to go." The explosion that followed shook the entire ship. But the engines kept running. Throughout the Veltar fleet, something unprecedented was happening. Warriors who had never questioned orders began to hesitate. They watched their screens showing healthy, intelligent children who had been thrown away like garbage. They heard the voices of young Veltar choosing human protection over their own people on the flagship. Commander Zethra watched the broadcasts with growing unease. She had spent her entire life believing in the Krethvol, but now she saw children she had helped abandon becoming something remarkable under human care. "High Commander," she said quietly to Vextara, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." Vextara turned on her with fury. "You too? Has human weakness infected even my own commanders?" But as she spoke, more voices joined the doubt. Warriors across the fleet began asking questions they had never dared ask before. If these abandoned children could become so strong under human care, what did that say about Veltara methods? If humans could fight so fiercely to protect young that weren't even their own species, what did that say about the nature of true strength? The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the greatest victory doesn't come from winning a battle. Sometimes it comes from making your enemies question everything they believe. High Commander Vextara's voice boomed across all communication channels, cutting through the chaos of the battle. "Enough! Human Captain, I challenge you to single combat. If you win, the Silthar remain free. If you lose, they return to face." Proper judgment. Captain Day looked around his damaged bridge. Smoke filled the air from overloaded systems. Half his crew was injured. Through the windows, he could see Veltar ships surrounding them like hungry predators. "Captain, don't do it," Security Chief Rebin said urgently. "She's twice your size and trained from birth to kill." Day thought about the children in the corridors below. He thought about Kaisun's sacrifice. He thought about little Silka, who had been abandoned for acting like a normal child. "I accept," he said simply. The docking bay of the Blood Sovereign had been cleared for the ritual combat. High Commander Vextara stood in the center, her massive frame covered in ceremonial armor. She carried traditional Veltar blades that gleamed like silver death. Captain Day walked into the arena wearing his simple uniform and carrying basic combat gear. He looked tiny next to the Veltar warrior, but his eyes were determined. "This is your last chance, human," Vextara said, her voice echoing in the huge space. "Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." "This isn't about who's stronger," Day replied, checking his weapons. "This is about what strength means. You've built a civilization on abandoning your young. We've built one on protecting them. Let's see which philosophy creates better warriors." Vextara laughed and raised her blades. "Your sentiment will be your death." The fight began. Vextara was everything Day had expected: faster, stronger, more skilled. Her blades cut through the air like lightning. Her movements were precise and deadly. Within minutes, Day was bleeding from several wounds, but something strange happened as the fight continued. Day fought with tactics the Veltar had never seen before. He used improvisation instead of standard techniques. He employed deception and creativity. He sacrificed his own safety to create opportunities. Most importantly, he refused to give up. Every time Vextara knocked him down, he got back up. Every time she landed a blow that should have ended the fight, he kept fighting. He fought with the desperation of someone protecting children, not the pride of someone proving superiority. "Stay down." Vextara roared as Day struggled to his feet for the 10th time, blood running down his face. "Can't," Day gasped, raising his weapon again. "Kids are counting on me." Throughout the Veltar fleet, warriors watched in amazement. They had never seen anyone fight like this, not for glory or conquest, but for others. Even when clearly beaten, the human captain refused to quit. On the observation deck of the arena, Kathanara and the other children watched through the windows. Tears ran down their faces as they saw their protector being beaten by the strongest warrior in the galaxy. "We have to help him," Silka whispered. "How?" asked another child. "We are just the abandoned ones." Kathanara looked at her fellow Silthara. All her life, she had been told they were worthless. But the humans had shown them something different. They had shown them that value came not from passing tests, but from caring for others. "We go down there," she said firmly. "All of us." Minutes later, as Vextara prepared to deliver the killing blow, the arena doors opened. 300 young Veltar walked in, led by Kethanara. They were small and scared, but they stood together with courage their own people had never taught them. "Stop," Kethanara called out, her young voice carrying across the arena. "If you kill him, you have to kill us too." Vextara turned in shock. "What are you doing here, failures?" "We're protecting someone who protected us," Kethanara replied. Behind her, the other children nodded. "The humans taught us that the strongest thing you can do is stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves." Little Silka stepped forward, no longer the terrified child who had been abandoned for crying. "Captain Day gave us food when he was hungry. He made us warm when he was cold. He is stronger than any warrior because he makes others strong too." High Commander Vextara stared at the children surrounding her. These were the failures, the weak ones, the cast-offs. Yet they stood facing the most feared warrior in the galaxy without backing down. "You would die for this human?" she asked in disbelief. "He would die for us," Kethanara said simply. "That's what real strength looks like." From the observation deck, Commander Zethra watched the scene unfold. All her life, she had believed in the Krethval. She had watched countless children be abandoned for showing mercy, asking questions, or caring too much about others. Now she saw what those children could become when given a chance. She walked down to the arena floor and stood beside the children. "High Commander, I formally request that you end this combat." Vextara spun toward her. "You dare interfere with sacred ritual?" "I dare to question whether our ritual serves the Veltar people," Zethra replied. "Look at these children." "We threw them away, and the humans made them into something remarkable." Around the arena, more Veltar warriors began to enter. They had watched the broadcast, seen the children's courage, witnessed a human captain fight beyond all limits to protect young that weren't even his own species. Sub-Commander Kethval spoke. "For many of them, perhaps our definition of strength has become our greatest weakness." High Commander Vextara looked around the arena. She saw abandoned children showing more courage than her trained warriors. She saw a beaten human who refused to quit. She saw her own officers questioning centuries of tradition for the first time in her life. The greatest warrior in the Veltar Empire felt doubt. "What would you have us do?" she asked quietly. Captain Day, barely able to stand, struggled to his feet one more time. "Start over," he said. "Build something better, together." 6 months later, the colony of New Kethmore thrived on a green world at the edge of human space. Young Veltar, who had been abandoned, now learned alongside human children. They combined their species' natural abilities with human values of cooperation and compassion. Dr. So Min watched as Kethanara, now a leader among both species, taught a mixed class of human and Veltar children. The lesson was about protecting those who needed help. "The humans didn't change us by defeating us," Kethanara explained to her students. "They changed us by showing us what our own children could become." Captain Day, still healing from his injuries, stood beside So Min. "Think it will work? A civilization built on cooperation instead of competition?" "Look at them," So Min said, watching children play together without regard for species differences. "I think we're watching evolution in action." Throughout Veltar space, change was slow but steady. Some worlds began adopting human-influenced child-rearing practices. The Silthara became bridges between civilizations, living proof that survival wasn't just about being the fittest. It was about being the most adaptable. And sometimes, the most radical evolution came not from abandoning the weak, but from refusing to abandon anyone at all. In the end, humanity's impossible act of compassion hadn't just saved 300 children. It had helped an entire species evolve beyond the limitations of their own success. The predator's young were no longer forsaken, and the galaxy was better for it.